Team Heretics finally take to the stage, and KC show us that they are better than their round one results indicate. Welcome back to the studio, and welcome to a very glorious day where elimination strikes for a best of 5. And in that best of 5, it's going to be Betty Dagda alongside me, taking you through what we hope will burn the barn down a bit.
I'm ready for it. I'm hoping it's going to be an absolute banger. I will say though, like, definitely an uphill battle for Heretics. I don't exactly think they're expecting to come up against KC already in this lower bracket run, but we'll have to see if they're going to be able to take on the Titans.
The last time they met in week 3, it was a very close affair. We found Heretics getting themselves early leads in every single one of those games, and they really made KC work for that series victory. But it's crucial to remember that was, of course, all the way back in week 3. Since then, KC have shown a lot of developments, and Heretics have also ran into some struggles. We've already heard some interviews coming through from Flakked after their tiebreaker match against Vitality, where the environment in the team wasn't the best. They felt like they weren't finding the same early game success, and now we need to see how this break has benefited them and the changes they've made in preparation for this series.
And I want to see how this draft goes for Heretics coming into this, because KC last week against MCOY, we kind of saw, hey, there was a focus on trying to give across a lot of these big picks for KC, but have answers for them. It was the Rumble that was answered by the Galio from Mirwin. The Silas didn't really get as much as it wanted. Even Caliste Ezreal wasn't able to kind of be up to speed in that game number 1. So I'm curious if Heretics have kind of taken a leaf out of the MCOY book, or if they are coming in with their own strategy.
Yeah, how much more fluid, how much more versatile are they is going to be the biggest question coming through, because Canna's champion pool, especially in that top lane, has been a big contention. Things like the Ambessa, things like Rumble Rob was just mentioning. So far, none of those taken away. Instead, Vi gone, Taliyah gone. Some of the big mid-jungle pairings already off the board in game 1.
We're already looking at things like a Rumble priority coming into game 1, maybe even Ambessa, depending on what Canna is feeling. I mean, that's the thing about Canna's champion pool, right? Even though it is a topic, his pool just feels perfect for the meta that we currently exist in, right? And so far, it's not something that he's really struggled with, but let's see what the Heretics approach will be, because mid seems to be the focus on their part, and it's going to continue to be, as Azir is going to be the final ban to come through. KC's priority now, a lot of strong AD carries are available, along with junglers, along with tops.
That's the thing, it's like the Varus is up, but your Rumble is up, the Jayce is up as well, which has been a big pick for Canna, so I am really curious as to where they want to try and go to Caliste, true. So there is major priorities here, and I think it's kind of Heretics saying, hey, we're happy to try and take 2 off the back of this. So is it going to be something like a Pantheon coming through here for Sheo? Although he's also been a big Naafiri player, so maybe that's the angle here for the jungler.
Naafiri's a really good call out, getting nerfed in later patches, but for now, Rumble Naafiri slapped in for Heretics. 2 big power picks off the board.
Yeah, and I think it was really interesting to see Heretics in the kind of make or break game against Vitality, that it was them transitioning over to where Sheo being a carry on the Naafiri to try and play through. Because traditionally when we looked at him on BDS and then even coming into Heretics at the start, he was much more of a facilitator and still has these games of Sejuani, but it certainly feels as of late they're swapping over towards him as this more carry-oriented jungler that they look to play through.
I very much feel like Heretics need Sheo to have a strong early game if they want to have a good performance. But of course, you get yourself the Rumble, but in exchange, Canna will get what I would consider his best champion.
I feel like that's his best, isn't it? That is a big risk.
I can tell you right now that while he does speak some English, when he's playing this champ, it is full-on Korean. Like, the man's performance is immaculate, and it is a scary matchup to go into.
75% of the time in this regular season was banned against KC. It's the most banned champion against KC for a reason. This is Wukong pairing. We got a lot of AD to force onto KC for game 1.
Yeah, I do like the Wukong though, because it works as a champion that when you've set up pretty much for a poke composition already for KC, you can both play that engage while also having that defensive disengage as well, where you can leave the clone, pop up that ultimate and just get on out of there. So I do like kind of what KC are going for at the moment, and it also opens up Targamas then if he really wants to go for something like maybe a Renata in the bottom side. You can even take something like the Braum as well, because you're looking at, for Heretics at least, more engage coming from that bottom side because there's no real engage tools on their team at the moment.
I like the combo of Jhin plus Rumble. I don't love Jhin into Wukong. I think Wukong has such easy backline access to disrupt his use of the ultimate.
Sure.
It can make things very difficult for the Jhin to really get good positioning in the fights. But as I mentioned earlier, the combination when it comes to sieging towers, setting up objectives of Rumble plus Jhin is a tried and true combo that's lasted throughout the years. So at the very least, Heretics have a strong foundation for both their team fighting and pushing any advantages they gain.
I do think KC will ban away things like the Leona though, because Leona Orianna Jhin, just a very strong combo on that bottom side. Maybe you want to go for a Rel as well, just to try and keep Stend away from it, because I think Stend has had some decent performances in the Rel, but overall I think it's just try and remove that kill pressure on the bottom side of the map and some of that non-committal engage.
We did talk about engage before, at least for Team Heretics side. One of them taken away in the Nautilus and trimming down the pool. Let's see if there is something like the Leona that is going to be a snag away. For now, that's KC's focus. Poppy's taken away from an option that could go towards support as well, alongside that Varus, and could just disrupt.
The Poppy ban, to me, suggests that Heretics is thinking about the Rel.
Right.
But we will see what their second ban ends up being, the Nico. Okay, well, I mean, you've already mentioned the Leona, but yeah, Rel, Leona, I think are the two front runners right now for Heretics' spot side of the map, especially when we think of Stend. Some of his best performances from the regular season were, in my opinion, on this Rel champion. Rakan is another one that they could be thinking about, depending on how much mobility they want to try and leverage.
I wonder if they're going for, hey, we will ban Leona, give you Rel, take the Alistar on the opposite side for Targamas, but if I remember correctly in the MCOI series, I don't think he looked particularly comfortable in the matchup, kind of playing that opposite side, so it looks actually they're just going to leave both of them open, so basically to have your pick of the litter. I think if you go for the Rel, you're happy to take the Leona, so yeah, I think, there you go, Vladi, the Rakan, take it over.
I don't know how much I love the Rakan, I mean, only because I feel like Heretics don't have a huge amount of dive. I guess Naafiri does want to threaten the backline, and I guess when you pair that up with the Rumble, it does become a very scary backline threat. I guess for me, things like Leona Rel just make more sense in an engage comp, because right now, who really face checks this poke composition? You know, if you're trying to walk up towards a dragon and it's Fog of War, this Jayce, this Varus, they're going to be chipping away at your HP, and who's the character on your side that's going to be responsible for tanking up that damage as you try and close that gap? And right now, I don't really have a strong candidate for who could really do that.
That's the problem. KC don't have that same problem. KC definitely have front lines in Alistar, in Wukong, and we need an AP mid. For the side of KC, yes, sure, but for Team Heretics as well, is this a Silas angle? How do we fill this comp in? I've seen Orianna with Naafiris a lot of the time with pairings, because we've established we're not going to have a front line, but we need some extra AP, right?
Yeah, I don't even know if you want to go for something like a Galio, just to be like, hey, Rakan goes in, I have some follow-up, but it doesn't do great into the lane against the Ryze, so yeah, it's just going to be the Orianna, okay? But again, like, you are very dependent now on this kind of Orianna-Rakan combo finding success and trying to close the distance very quickly, because KC's comp, ton of poke, great range, good disengage. Like, KC have really opened up the strong draft here.
I think Orianna into Ryze as a matchup is really good. Ryze typically relatively short range, so many control mages can have a pretty good time against him. The problem is, at a certain point, as has been the case for, well, a decade now when it comes to Ryze, is he just does so much better in the side lane than so many of these matchups. And you look at what KC have drafted for themselves, 1-3-1, along with great range, great tools for both engage. Dagda was already talking about it. They should be able to get pushed in the bot side of the map. I mean, Jhin versus Varus, obviously, a lot can determine how both the Rakan and Alistar interact with one another. But Jayce, I mean, it's Canna's Jayce for one, and he knows how to play this matchup extremely well. Yes, and so while Vladi may concede push in the early game, the Orianna has to be super careful, because into a Wukong, you are very susceptible to some very easy gank setups from both the Ryze and the Wukong.
Yeah, I think the only saving grace as well is the fact that you do have at least the Orianna and the Naafiri combo, where Naafiri just ults in and you can get that Orianna ult over across the top of it, but it still feels like it's kind of more of aim at skirmishes and very quick picks, and against the composition that KC has, where they want to set up early on objectives and look for poke, it can be difficult to find those windows of opportunity.
I'm just glad we've set the base, set the tone for our game one between Heretics and KC, our elimination best of 5, last of round 1 on the 1st of June. As we tip through the halfway point of 2025, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what we hope should be an entertaining series for your Sunday night. KC, the first team in the regular season, the best team in the LEC Spring, got tested by Koi. It went to 5 games as well, and Koi sent it right down here. Somehow, the Spaniards did well, and we looked at, and KC, not discrediting Koi, of course, guys.
It's just the way you phrase it.
I had to say that at the back end. But KC really, it was slapped to the face of reality. And Team Heretics, as you said, they've had a lot of time to prep for this. And I know you guys were reflecting on how they were post-Vitality in that best-of-1 tiebreaker that they had to fight just to get out of the season.
The question marks I have surrounding KC are very much catered towards their early game. how consistent they've been with it is not something that I've been super impressed with. And if we go all the way back to week 3, something that we were mentioning coming into the draft was that the reason why Heretics versus KC was such a close best of 3 was because Heretics got an advantage in every single game. They were doing incredibly well, and like you can see, the gold difference at 14, they were up on average, really 1,600 gold. Their K plus A at 14 was 3. Notice the KC's was 0.
Yeah.
Okay, and so it was a very early game favored Heretics in that series, and it was always just KC's mid game, their team fighting, their macro overall was just stronger, which allowed them to turn the series around, or many games around in the series, I should say. But that's kind of the question for me coming into this series. How does KC's early game continue to look? Obviously, this was all the way back in week 3, but some of those early game concerns we've had around KC still linger. And something we were talking about earlier, Dagda, was even though we still saw some good performances in the early game against Mad, it wasn't something... Koi! that... It's still something we're keeping our eye on.
Yeah, and I think in that Koi series, the part that stood out to me was when Yike was on something like Sejuani that could interact with the lanes early, got Canna ahead in the early stages, and that's when, in that series, I think KC looked their best in the early game, but that's not exactly what you can do here. Yike is on a Wukong that kind of wants to wait for level 6, whereas Sheo has something that can be a little bit more active, and especially in the early skirmishes, if you can play around like shields from Orianna in 2v2s or 3v3s, I think that's where Heretics will try and focus.
I do notice that Yike is pathing towards top lane though, when we've seen a few times before Yike, especially when Canna's on this Jayce, go for those early dives.
Yep.
Carlsen hasn't taken a huge amount of damage. He's been showing some decent respect in the matchup as Vladi gets a nice trade of his own.
Really nice. We're just talking about the Orianna laning phase and how you can trade through the wave. How for Vladi it should be a little bit harder, but trades like that, guess again. Vladi comes out, big flash, almost tethers him down.
He got a really nice root off in the minion wave and leveraged the minions to apply the flux, which then allowed him to get a secondary Q off. Now Kamiloo, no flash, sets up for Yike.
And without that flash, he's dead meat. Yike runs in, easy bonk on the head. A small assist for Vladi's hard work.
Nicely done by Yike. Skips the blue buff, says, hey look, there's been a heavy trade in mid, but flashes are gone. I can set up for an easy kill, and that'll set up for first blood for KC.
And it's exactly what we were talking about in the draft. When that Orianna loses flash against a Wukong specifically, it becomes a very dangerous affair. We see some trading back and forth in the bot lane, relatively even overall, but it's KC that already gets their first mark on the board.
And I think Kamiloo is going to be revisited again as well, because now that that flash is gone, it's very easy for Vladi to try and set up for a slow and try and open up these opportunities for Yike to come on through. And that's kind of the biggest issue with Wukong, is you just don't have your own CC to try and play through, but if you've got the Ryze to set that up, it's very simple to go for.
Vladi playing towards his jungler right now as well. You see he's pathing within the lane as he drops even a control ward. Watching Sheo path around the back of the lane, I believe. All about where Yike was. Yike's actually backed off, now going towards his bot clear to go upwards again, it seems, as I love the cameraman keeps coming up to top lane. Yes, the lane is going as you'd expect with Canna. If you looked at how good he was in the regular season, you're not going to be surprised.
Sheo is starting to move up though. It didn't actually go for the reset. Just going to try and clear his camp. So I wasn't sure if he wanted to try and make something happen in that top side, but looks like it's just going to be a case of clear his top side and try and sync up a little bit with enemy jungler.
So far, everything going the way that KC could have wanted though.
Yeah.
They've got the nice bot wave pushed in on the reset coming through from Flakked, so Caliste is going to get a reset of his own. Vladi has built up a small advantage due to the assist, along with setting up his jungle up for success. Meanwhile, Canna's just independently building his own lead on the top side of the map. So in terms of the early game, I mean, KC already having a very strong start here in game 1.
75% of games banned away. I can't believe he got it in game 1. At least it's off the board in a fearless draft, but still. Canna's someone we're going to have to keep an eye on. 15 CS is the lead for now as he pushes the wave in. Meanwhile, mid is brewing a little bit. CS is quite even, but Vladi keeps getting away with some really explosive trades. Tier now for Vladi as well. That mana pool is ever so growing. And of course with Ryze, passive, damage increasing with it too.
I think it's also going to be a little difficult for Kamiloo and Sheo to try and bounce back in against Vladi, because even though the flash is down, he's about to tick over to 6, and unless you just want to hold the Orianna ult as that form of CC to prevent the Ryze ult away, it kind of becomes a little messy, because the Ryze can continuously just run out, he gets the movement speed off the phase rush, so trying to play around this mid-wet lane actually gets a little difficult for the combo that Heretics are running.
Love the tracking that we've been seeing from both junglers. KC are doing a good job of spotting where Sheo is. Bear in mind, they've got no vision here on the bot side of the map. They've just got a good awareness of what camps have been cleared and where Sheo is likely to be. For now, it looks like they're going to give up that dragon. the resets will come through from Vladi. And I imagine KC will set their sights on the Grub unless a swap comes through from Heretics. We'll have to wait and see.
You're just so good at neutrals, hey? Team Heretics playing defensive ball around this Dragon is at 1300. Sheo Smite just won't commit for now, but Yike's coming in. This might turn into a fight, however. Even with 6, doesn't want to pull the trigger. Dragon goes down, and for Team Heretics, their first objective on the board.
They did end up pushing Heretics off this bottom wave, though, which means that they should be able to set up a slow push and then go for that rotation that Betty was talking about. So I'm curious, I was going to say how Heretics want to try and play this, because Carlsen has no TP, so I wasn't sure if they wanted to try and reset him to pick up the slow crashing wave and immediately move Flakked top, but it looks like at least at the moment KC should be able to get first rotation of their bot lane towards that. The Void Grubs.
I guess the concern for Heretics is even if they do swap the Jhin and the Rakan to top lane, is there really a threat onto Canna? Can they really threaten a dive? In contrast, against an Alistar, your Rumble is in some very serious danger, so I imagine they just want to keep the standard lanes for now. Stend is fishing in the mid lane, looking for a bit of a cheeky gank onto Vladi, but he's not going to find one.
He'll get the flash from Targamas at the very least, and maybe flash from the cow, 30 seconds before Grubs. Changes things a little. Having said that, though, Caliste gets some more damage onto Stend as he pushes up in the wave. Yike's now moving through mid lane as well. That flash we talked about, it's still not up. Kamiloo doesn't have his escape path, and Yike knows it. Second Cyclone incoming, and the kill wanting to go to Vladi. Does so with the shockwave, bringing it in for a 2-0.
I mean, they make it look easy, and that's how it's supposed to look. Ryze plus Wukong, the chain CC onto an Orianna with no flash, just before that summoner spell comes off cooldown. KC get themselves their second of the game, this time handing it over to Vlad.
Yeah, Sheo, though, going to move over towards Void Grubs and just try and trade for that play. Not the best, though. The fact that you've already gotten this mid-jungle for KC off to a great start means it's easier again to try and play through it, but Yike starting to move up here. If you can try and steal away one with his smite, would stop the thief from going over.
So he does get it. Sheo knows that 3 is going to be a hard ass, though, and even Yike without ulti just shows his face now with Sheen. And enough respect's given over. 1,200 gold lead for KC in this early game, and Dagda is just so rightly saying, mid-jungle off to a flying start, Ryze in side lanes, almost with Rod of Ages. It feels so nice when you have this early wave clear bot that, as you said earlier on in the draft, can be so mobile and also making some of these side lane plays.
But look at the bot side. Vladi hasn't gone back mid.
Here it is now, the realm war we were just talking about with the chain corruption, lay it down. Where are you going to move? Stend kept in place. Team Heretics with no chances. Vladi sets up for a 2.
The old school Ryze playbook was send a few ganks into the mid lane, open him up, and then let him be unleashed on the map. Vladi, very familiar with that style of play. He gets those 2 early kills onto Kamiloo and immediately translates that pressure from mid to the rest of the map.
Counter pursuit comes out. Sheo goes invulnerable for the time being. Caliste doesn't have an ulti, but he has flash. He has barrier 1 used, and Flakked now just needs a route down. The 4th shot will do it anyway. Double summon around, and Flakked now on the board too.
Nice bounce back from Heretics. Sheo moving into that bot side. Caliste wanting to push out the wave. Overextends, and Heretics pick him off.
These are the plays that Sheo needs to be making. We talked about it earlier. Heretics' early game is largely driven by Sheo. When this man is active on the map is when Heretics look their best in the early game, and finding a finding a return kill onto Caliste, I should say,
reverse kill
at the very least gets Heretics on the board.
1 out of 3, Betty. It's getting there, isn't it? And kill going as well to Flakked. Already had a bit of a CS lead. I think he's going to have to be the hero this game. Dragon's up in 130 as well. And that'll be our next port of call as Heretics still trailing, but getting these Dragon stacks up does feel like it starts becoming a wing addition. How this early game's gone so far.
Canna's waiting. He's going to get a very nice trade.
It is damage down. Carlsen, don't think he has an escape out, and Canna just waiting for the rotation. Bopped around for a bit. He's in the danger zone, but as he flashes away, Canna goes into hammer form. Carlsen's just dead. Solo kill for Canna in game 1.
There's a reason it's on the ban list against KC. Canna with the solo kill against Carlsen, and he is dominating in this topside performance. And now you've got both solo laners for KC in a phenomenal spot. It's going to be difficult for Heretics to try and contest side lanes.
It certainly is. I mean, I couldn't really say it much better myself. KC's side lanes are now set up for perfection. They want to be able to play through the 1-3-1. They have so much poke at their disposal. And yes, their bot lane falling behind a little bit, but they'll primarily be backup crew to Yike.
Invis, he flashed Cyclone. Kamiloo immediately pays a response tax, so his summoner's gone as well, but Yike is making plays on this Wukong again.
Heretics collapsing though.
Vladi has flash as well, has to burn it. Deadly Flourish caught him with the pants down, and 20 seconds till Dragon. Maybe enough for Team Heretics to open it up.
The thing is, not having the ultimate from Yike actually makes this a little bit difficult. Kamiloo's ultimate just came off cooldown. Pushing bot side, though, means that KC might feel a little better if they're trying to push into river. See, Caliste, though, looking like he wants to reset. I don't know if he has the gold for his first item.
Kamiloo is spending a little too much time trying to protect that ward. Will allow Vladi to get that push into mid lane. Roaming up towards top, moving into the fog of war and potentially threatening the top side of the map, but leaving the Dragon available. Stend and Kamiloo move towards, once again, the bot side river. Sheo even going to start this one off. It looks like he's going to blast cone over, and looks like the Dragon's going to be started.
Team Heretics will be big to get a second. Second they will get. Yike is too far away, and you know, for an early game that's giving away so much gold, it is nice to see that Heretics at least have a game plan in mind.
But I think it was a little bit of over-eagerness from the KC side, right? Yike flashed in, try and make that combo happen. Kamiloo responds with the flash, but you've always got that invulnerability from Sheo, which makes it very difficult to chase him down. And oh, hang on, Vladi.
Quickness. He's got a ball on top of him as well with the shockwave waiting. He's not going to get Yike. He came in a little bit late, but Vladi's still dead. That opens things up with the call of the pack, but Sheo doesn't need to use it. Invulnerability down. 2 shots, not out. Team Heretics with another.
Nice combo from Heretics. Again, driven by the jungle support combo of Heretics. They lock down Vladi, they know he has no flash available, and they have enough damage. This is the advantage of how Jhin can follow from very long range thanks to his ultimate and his W. And together, they're able to find another pick. The gold difference not really growing that much in favor of KC. But again, you turn your attention back towards the top side of the map and you can see that this growing threat, ever looming in Canna, yet to make his presence known on the rest of the map.
I'm a little terrified with that lad starts to get involved in fights. He is very, very strong. I think at this thing, hang on, Targamas.
Yeah, it's over the wall. Good damage. That came from Kamiloo. There's a bit of burst, but Sheo won't follow it through. KC walk out, but he definitely wanted to get aggressive. Yike trying to get wrapped. This is just no bueno.
Yeah, I think I was trying to put pressure onto Heretics in the top side so they can maybe shift up and get that first tower in the top side of the map. You can see it's only got 1 plate left, but Targamas just trying to push in a little bit too far, and good burst from Kamiloo. Thanks to that Ludens means that they're not able to respond very well, so yeah, again, Stend in this top half.
No ult available, no flash either. Maybe just the defensive play to cover.
Yeah, Kamiloo's ult was just about to come off cooldown, so didn't quite have the play there, but still, I like the moves that we're getting to see from Stend. I think this is kind of where Stend has looked his best, is when he's on something like a Rakan, where he can link up with Sheo and be this kind of playmaker around the map and have impact in these side lanes to help out Kamiloo and Carlsen. But at this stage, it is just, as you say, unfortunate that the early game has gone so well for KC when it comes towards those side lanes.
KC, though, very happy with their current position, given how both Vladi and Canna find themselves in a good spot. Even after the death, Vladi's still sitting with a gold lead, and of course that tier almost fully stacked for him.
I don't feel like we say that often about KC's. The early games are their strong point. We're talking about this backstage. Yeah. It's not like they come out of early games with massive leads. I feel like Canna is the most consistent in having a lane lead, but 100%. Everywhere else is kind of, you know, milling a bit.
But I think there's no need for them to try and blow up in the game early in a lot of times.
Yep.
I think KC are probably the best team fighting team, or at least in the top 2 team fighting teams we have in LEC. So why try and force these early game plays that maybe could go a bit topsy-turvy, where you can just rely on your core fundamentals coming into a mid-game? And we're certainly starting to hit that with KC having a lead. I think this is an uphill battle for Heretics.
I just find that KC's laners are very reliable across the board.
Yeah.
And so I don't think the Yike strategy is ever, I need to snowball X lane or Y. He tends to kind of pivot and adapt depending on the flow of the game. And that's why I don't think they've demonstrated like a consistently solid, super amazing early game throughout the split. But this is a perfect example of how I think KC like to enter the mid game in a solid state. A slight advantage in their favor. They're reaching their power spikes. And as Dagda was saying, to round these spikes, this team really knows how to team fight. And the reason why people credit Vladi so much, I don't think it's for his laning. It's because of how incredible of a team fighter he really is.
And his laning has been quite difficult, at least in the last series versus Koi, as Stend gets booted a little bit. Canna's the one with the gold lead, all 1,500 of it. He's going to be Hound's pursuited. Chains Corruption, though, is a great cover, and he turns it. The last bullet held. Caliste saves his life, and Canna will survive.
Oh, Sheo, he didn't want to overextend. He thought that the Ignite would finish him off, especially with Flakked firing the ult, but now the collapse.
Killer Monkey, Killer Blue Man. There's a Smurf on the way. Getting Flakked cornered up against the wall. There's no escape. A Cyclone into the air. Team Heretics have nowhere to go. Targamas to finish off Flakked, while Yike does the rest. What a pitch from KC.
The blue man bopped them down like they were our PVC pipeline. It was just absolutely destroyed in the bottom side. But this was insane from Canna. The knockback on the engage from Stend, so he doesn't end up getting popped up. Then you get the engage coming through from Sheo, but Caliste, the hero player over the wall, just hits Stend. So then they're able to get him the kill. Then he comes in to block it as well for Canna after the knockback onto Sheo. Really well executed by KC. And then the TP, perfect from Vladi to set up for the rest.
And this is a great example of how KC want to leverage their side laners, the ability of Vladi to quickly collapse. Canna likely going to be able to do something similar when his TP is available in the future. But a bit of an overstep from Heretics, an ambitious play as they thought they'd caught Canna out, ends up in disaster. And now, as we enter the mid-game, a 4K gold lead in favor of KC.
Yeah.
Looking to take firm control over game one.
This Dragons, those first two aren't going to matter as much, are they? Yike drops a Herald as well. And KC, that's about opening up mid and using that pressure to stop the Dragon stacking, and they're going to get mid on top of that too, so big win for KC in gold.
I think they got botted as well, actually, but Vladi going to pull off that, looking for the engage.
Jesus, save me.
Looking at it in jungle, though, Rumble, finding Vladi, like, KC are just pushing advantages everywhere.
This is a great example of what we talked about in draft, though. When KC controls the river, how do you enter? Who is that person that face checks for you? How do you really gain that space when Canna, when Vladi, when Caliste? These are not champions that you want to face check willy-nilly. You need someone who can tank that damage for you, and right now Heretics have no one.
Oh look, all bushes are face checkable, sometimes only once.
Quickness. Stend engage. Oh, good disengage from Targamas. He pops away, flushes away from the shockwave, chains corruption in response. Caliste wants that range with lethality. Varus finds it as Dragon goes down. Canna add to the pool as Caliste is isolated for the time being, but he's got a barrier. He's got tools to buy a bit more time. He'll run towards Sheo just like Yike is doing for the second Cyclone and the flank. Targamas going to be the extra engage. They just need a kill, but Heretics are losing everything else. The disengage is good, however, and with the equalizer down, maybe there's a chance. Team Heretics have 5 alive, and they want to find Vladi as well, who's caught up, backs against the wall, the flames spitting out onto Yike. Carlsen ran in, but now he's overheating as Sheo gets the flash out of Vladi, sends out the darkened daggers. KC lost one. Team Heretics somehow lost 0 until now. Kamiloo in a 1v1 ain't gonna win it against Canna. Eventually it's a 1-for-1. Team Heretics had to fight to stay alive, and KC had to fight to thrive.
What a crazy long team fight that ends up in only being a 1-for-1. I feel like KC overplayed their hand just a little bit. But ultimately, they get the dragon that they were after. Sheo.
Doggy. Explosion. Shock blast hurts, and that's the last of Canna's mana. He's going to stick around. He wants the smite steal. He doesn't find it. Double dark and daggers onto Canna, but it's still not enough damage. They disengage, and KC will walk away with the buff.
This fight was absolute bedlam, so you kind of get the Stend trying to move in, see if he can pick off someone as they're trying to get the vision that they need, but Caliste gets his root in the bush, but no real follow-up then. So this is where it starts to get a little bit messy, as KC wants to disengage. Caliste tries to take the quick route towards mid. Sheo thinks he has an option to go for it, but watch Vladi. He just ults on top of Flakked and tries to pick him off, but again, now everyone on KC is rotated up to the top half of the map, so Heretics are able to empty out to the bottom side as Kamiloo picks up the kill, but this is where it starts to get a bit funky, because you get the reset from Orianna in the bottom lane, who then TPs onto the mid wave as you have all this kind of going on in the middle. And that's where KC go, hang on a second, Kamiloo's got mid, we can collapse onto the Kamiloo on mid wave. And then the follow-up tries to come through from Heretics, but doesn't quite work out either.
I mean, if he had TP'd behind the dragon and then came in from the south, I think it might have been a better play for Heretics, but of course we're speaking from the luxury of hindsight. KC, regardless, find themselves the dragon, they steal away a red, they get themselves a trade kill, and they find themselves up 5,500 gold. They're in a fantastic position with Canna kind of leading the fray in terms of gold leads, but don't be distracted by the fact that Yike is currently 2-0-2 with a Trinity Force and a Sundered Sky, and this Ryze is fully online with both mana items fully upgraded. Level 14 on the Ryze, 2 full levels above Kamiloo.
Remember old League of Legends, you just have to guess with the gold leads. We kind of walk people to the door now, don't we? You know, those 2.2k, 1.4k. Back in my day, we had to count. Crazy how times change, eh?
I didn't realize you were ahead of your time with the old man speeches.
I think it was very valid just seeing how easy my job has become over the years, you know, just to watch. Well, it's not that easy.
Hey, back in my day, we had to count our jungle timers, all right?
See, he got one of them as well. But then he is like 45 or something. So that's true. Different. You are getting there, Varus, but so is Canna. Flashes away. Chance Corruption misses, though. A bit of a whiff from Caliste. They'll take that, though, and getting the flash away from Canna. It's a small win from Heretics, too.
I think the thing is, though, the KC are still getting the vision control that they want. Like, all they're looking at is Rakan, and you can see it started up, but they just want to deny Heretics that ability to face check, and oh my god, yeah, that accelerated shot blast is exactly why not having vision can hurt them.
And look, Caliste as well, as long as he lands something, that follow-up is an instant kill. Vladi plays zone control while Rakan's just going to drop. Carlsen comes from the north, to use Verdius' terminology. And as they get the compass out, I want to see how it goes from the west here, because Team Heretics, as they have to run up, they're going to get pinset again. Yike again with a double cyclone. The whole of KC rock on up, and Heretics are split apart. Just outclassed, outmanned, and outsmarted in game one.
The vision checked off. The poke checked off, and then Vladi setting up with Yike to get the engage that they needed. KC decimate Heretics off the Rakan play.
I mean, there've been a few blunders here and there, but a near-perfect game overall from KC. They haven't lost the tower yet. They conceded the early dragons in exchange for some early picks. Their solo laners have been dominating. And now Vladi.
He's very tanky, though. Let's see what Carlsen can do. Equalizes down. Sheo is now worried. Overheating is Carlsen. This is what I'm talking about. Vladi's going to get a backup TP, but Carlsen has to back away and is lonesome. Canna's now here. Shock Blast only hits Stend. Vladi would just walk it out like it was a tough walk.
Kamiloo used his TP to the top side of the map with Dragon spawning in 15 seconds. Vladi wants to get the reset off. Canna can push out this wave, and then he can either immediately move down or look for a reset himself. With so many members on the top side, Caliste gets open access to this tier 2 in the mid lane, and while he's not going to secure the tower, he will get enough mid push to make control over the bot river completely KC favored. And while all of that was happening, Yike also adds insult to injury by stealing away all of Sheo's camps.
I do think, though, from Heretics, this is not the Dragon I'm trying to contest, although they are trying to get onto Targamas. I was going to say, I think you just give Kamiloo the opportunity to push in top and try and get some towers for yourself, or even look for a play towards the top half of the map, but Targamas not going towards Dragon, neither is Caliste, means they're actually able to cover that potential topside play and just keep everyone in Heretics from making any sort of gold lead.
For me, what I like about that play is it's a great demonstration of why KC is a top team.
Yep.
They've only got a single player on the top side of the map. They know that Canna and Vladi as a duo could probably take on 4 members of Heretics with their strength, but while all that's happening, they're still doing so much elsewhere on the map. They're punishing Heretics for even trying to respond to punishing their solo member on the top side.
Happening again, though. Vladi's moving in, and again, this guy is Frank the Tank, and with Jayce Corruption, there ain't nowhere you're going but to the bank as KC are cashing in yet again. Vladi with a second. Sheo stands on the spot. He's been prisoned up, and the key's being thrown away. A double over to Canna. This one's in the books.
Looks like they're trying to get themselves another kill. Carlsen, he does have the flash available, but where's he going to flash to? KC secured themselves another kill, and this time round, KC change up the plan. Don't play away from the Ryze, play with him. They used the ultimate to find a collapse. They get themselves 4 kills, and they're looking to break into the base of Heretics.
And then Baron isn't even spawned yet, and already Heretics are stuck in their base. This has been decimation from KC. Like, how do you try and push out of your base as Heretics at this stage? We're already looking at, base checking was difficult, the poke was difficult from KC. Now you're being sieged at your inhibitor turrets, and all the KC have to do is push you back, reset, and go for the Baron.
Just have to stretch so far just to get simple vision. Canna's a threat, and we look at the replay, Jensen. As you said, Vladi had a great time syncing up.
Yeah, they're pushing out the top wave. The ulti comes through. They set up for an engage, and it ends up just being a chase. There's nowhere for Kamiloo to flash away to. Stend ends up getting picked off as well. And while they do have to commit a few flashes to get that final pick, it converts into a huge number of kills. And as Dagda was saying, the Baron yet to spawn, but as we get out of the replay, you'll find that it's back up and available for KC to just immediately turn their attention to. Nothing that Heretics can do about it. Heretics need to spend the rest of this game figuring out how they're going to adapt in game 2, because this is what peak KC looks like. Strong performance from the solo laners, great support from Yike to set up his mid laner for success, and then just good map movements through the side lanes to punish Heretics for every play that they made.
Yeah, and I think again, like, for Caliste, it's, hey, I'm on Varus, I'm just going to push waves and enable that, allow Targamas to move around the map. And it's as you were alluding to, Betty, just the fact that Targamas has been able to absorb a lot of the counter punches that Heretics want to go for on side lanes when Yike is, say, pushing in on towards bottom side or looking for a dragon on bottom side. And it just made it very, very difficult for Heretics to play. And I think this is what a lot of people expected coming into today. Heretics kind of snuck their way into playoffs against that game, or in that game against Vitality.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of going up against the team that finished first, and it's looking tough.
They look pissed. After losing to Koi, they look absolutely pissed.
And you have to feel bad for Caliste, because you look at the gold leads at the bottom, and he's got less than his support does.
Yeah.
But, his role this game is not to be the carry. He's largely been a distraction and a support. As Heretics try to focus on Caliste, the rest of his team is stepping up. And that's just how League works. The top side is stepping up for KC in game 1, as they set their sights on the tier 3 towers and look to make their way into Heretics base.
Look at their siege. Like, the range is disgusting. You can't step up as a turret. Your wave clear is Orianna.
I think it's also the fact that we get a game like this and we haven't had like Caliste Ezreal come out. We haven't seen like Vladi Silas's that he's been tending towards as well. You've still got a lot of different varieties of KC still in the tank, but this is a dangerous one.
It really is. Send the monkey in, he'll do the job. And with Nexus turrets now under siege, double cyclone, you'd be grateful it's gone from Heretics, but does it really matter? Chains of Corruption will fly and stand by Team Heretics, still sitting outside the fountain. Both their turrets are now going to drop, and the engage finally coming through, but it's all defense all the time. Jumping in, it's close to a 20,000 gold lead. We're at 17,000 in the bank. KC put their stamp on game 1 in this elimination match.
Marie, you summarized it beautifully, Hysterics. What an authoritative stomp from KC. 17 kills to 3, a 17k gold lead. I mean, a near flawless victory from KC.